a Q&A after this, so we're going to set up some tables and some chairs from the filmmakers from the movie. Can we get the filmmakers to come up, Vita? Mopor? We get this. Can we get another chair? Frank Martinez. Is Mia here? Mia? And Emma? Come on up, please. Thank you.
Yeah, let's get everybody up. I can move over. No one wants to sit next to you. That's fine.
Or you want to operate this?
Is Tammy here? Tammy, are you still here? There goes. There's Tammy. It's my mom. She was in the movie Satook. She has a hard time hearing, so she can't really hear what you guys are saying, and she probably don't know why she's doing what she's doing here for. So we just got her. But we'll get to that later. So just gonna.
Okay, great. Thanks. Everyone, Jambriasco, thank you so much for coming, and we really appreciate the time that you've taken to be a part of the Cambodia Film Festival and our wonderful short documentary corner. We have, as you can see, a lot of people on stage right now, so I'd like to just make sure that everyone gets their time and is introduced. So I'm going to pass the microphone down, and I'd like to just have you introduce yourselves and say what your role and what your relationship was to your film. So your name, the film you're a part of, and your relationship to it. Okay, thanks.
그냥 Robert Carlton, 그냥 tour Todd Ekasa. I'm the cinematographer for Satook.
I'm Frank Martinez, and I was the editor for Satook.
My name is Paul. I'm the part of the film for the actor.
I'm gonna speak on her behalf, I guess. So she's my mom, of course. Yeah, I'm just gonna leave it there.
So today my name is Tammy. I was on the temple. I was just in Satook.
My name is Pratch. I am the writer and the director of Satook.
My name is Emma Stein, and I'm a curator of Southeast Asian art at the Smithsonian National Museum of Asian Art. We produce Satook.
Farhad Shadraman, and I made Sophia Bongse, and I'm the associate producer for Satook.
My name is Jean-Baptiste Pou, and I am the director of the first film you saw, My Mother's Tongue.
I am Mia Lab, and I was part of Satook.
I'm going to kind of go in the direction, in the order of the films a little bit, and I also have some general questions as well. So, Jean-Baptiste, I will start with you. I have a couple of questions. I just thought it was so original how you addressed these questions of your language and connections, and you chose to use it with illustration and with animation. Can you tell us a little bit about why you chose to present it through that, with the sketching and filling in? It seems kind of like the sketches were part of your existence, right? And so it was not completely filled in. But that was just my interpretation. I would love to hear why you chose that.
Thank you. Actually, the film wasn't conceived as a film originally. Is the sound okay?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Originally, it was a sound piece. So I wrote it and I conceived it in my head only with sound. And it became a film afterwards because once we completed the sound work, so it was a podcast, it was online, so people could listen to it. But then we wanted to present it in Cambodia, where I live. I've been living in Cambodia for 7 years now. And because it's all in French, of course, we couldn't just, make it accessible for the local audience. So we had to add subtitles in Khmer, in English. So that's why you saw, the orange part in the film. And then once we had the idea of, adding the subtitles, then there was the question, what are we showing with that? Is it going to be just a black screen, and why not? I mean, we could just come and listen, and just listen to the work. But then I thought that could actually be an opportunity to do something, to add, images. But then there was also kind of a danger of doing that, because once you start adding image, then it becomes a film, and people watch, and they are just like hypnotized by what's going on the screen, and the sound become secondary. And I didn't want that to happen. So I experimented like different stuff. I tried to do like abstract art, things moving, clouds moving, slideshows. And the thing I absolutely didn't want to do was to shoot, because sound is the core of my work, right? Once you have like real people, then it becomes something else, right? It betrays the original intention. So I came up with this idea working with this visual artist called Sao Srimao. She was trained in Battambang at the Far From Eastern Fact School. And she's a quite well-known artist in Cambodia. But what she does is mainly digital drawing on photography. And she exhibits her work, which are printed, and you see them on the wall. But then I thought it could be interesting to see the process, to see the sketching, like revealing hidden scenes from the photograph. And then once I thought about that, the sketching, it would take time, and it's a bit meditative, it's like there's something going on, but you don't need to like sit and watch closely what's going on. You can be in that moment, but also be in the sound, which was really important to me. So I think what we were trying to create working with her was that relationship, like we are pausing, we are just here like revealing things as I tell the story, and then she's kind of like helping with her drawing to like give another interpretation of what I was saying through her sketches.
Absolutely, and I think you did it to wonderful effect. It was very powerful.
Thank you.
With those sketches too, I saw you use the krama, the scarf, a couple different ways. Around the mother's neck first, and then covering eyes.
Yeah.
Can you just say a little bit about that symbolism to you?
Sure, because the film is about kind of claiming back somehow, this part of my identity that I didn't grow up with. And I think the krama like symbolizes a lot of that identity. And both, the kind of, I would say the Khmer identity, like still nowadays people still wear krama in Cambodia, but it was also the the symbol of Khmer Rouge, they wore, the black uniform, but then the red crown. So to me, this fabric has this kind of double, for me personally, like this double symbol. It's like either your identity, but also the violence linked to that identity. So, and I think that's why what we were trying to do with Stella is like use that, piece to kind of, it's like the thread, like my journey with, and the different ways it's being used, like in the film, and kind of my evolution in that.
Yeah, beautiful, wonderful. Okay, I was also wondering about, so when you decided to go and learn Cambodian, so we know there's a lot of studies that have been done that say when you learn a language, it really affects how you understand the world, how you change, how you view the world through the language that you know. So I'd love to understand from you, your point of view, once you learned Cambodian, did something change in your brain, do you think, about how you viewed the world once you understood and learned Cambodian?
Yeah, I think this is what language said. I'm not so sure personally, like how it translate in my, do I see the world differently? But what I do see differently is living in Cambodia and speaking Khmer to people, it's my relationship with other people. Because, in France, we use tu, vous, which is you, so that, it creates some kind of distance. But in Cambodia, you would say bong, min, bu. So it's like, brother, sister, uncle, grandma, grandpa. So when you meet somebody on the street, when you go and you talk to your neighbor, when you go in the shop somewhere, already, there's a kind of proximity that just because you call people like that, you're like, oh, one big family, right? And is it artificial? Is it a conventional? I don't know. But then, to me, it does something. Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Okay, so Praj, I'm going to ask you. There's a hand down there. Thank you very much. Beautiful. All right, so Praj, you decided to tackle a film about religion, which is kind of the biggest thing that you could possibly talk about. It's universal, it's huge, there's wars fought about it, everything. You're like, oh, sure, I can do that. You decided to tackle something so big and yet so personal. I would love to know why you decided to choose this topic and why you chose it for right now.
Thank you. I didn't actually choose to make a film about religions. It kind of chose me. Quick story. So actually, the Smithsonian wanted to make the film, and they approached us. And I not only produced the KD's films. I don't know if KD's in here, but she had a pass on it because she was working on a film called The Harvest, a feature narrative film. And then when she started working on the feature, I already had a script, and I was like, I think I can do this. So then I just decided, I called Emma and the Smithsonian, and I told them, hey, I would direct the film. I have some ideas. And it kind of came together. But, I mean, for me, talking to them, different religion type, Christianity, atheist, Hindu, Buddhist, I told them, there is no right or wrong answer. I'm not trying to get anything from you. I'm just trying to understand your story. And that was basically it. And I think it was the hardest part when I was interviewing my brother. And my mom, she doesn't, she went to one Joe Benton. She didn't know that she was acting or anything. So I just told her, don't worry about us filming you. We're not just filming you. We're filming other people too. So just go do what you do. Go to the temple. And then Robert was following her. He's this tall white guy following her with the camera. But it was interesting too, because like I said, she has a hard time hearing, and then I'm not trying to direct her, but we were at the temple. We were at the temple during Bonfjong Ben, and it's the busiest time for Cambodian ceremonies, and I'm yelling at her, right? Because she couldn't hear. And then I remember at the last scene at the temple with the monks and stuff. So I was yelling at her, and the monk had to come up to me and goes, "Why are you yelling at her?" So. And then Tammy too, we were, but those are the things. But religion-wise, it's open to interpretation.
Yeah, and I think that came through really, really well in your film as well. You were able to make it feel like we could relate to every single person in there to get really to the heart of what they believed, and it wasn't, the dogma of it. It's exactly this way or that way. You were able to capture that really
without the Smithsonian funding it. And we, thank you. We filmed it during the height of COVID, and we had to travel to like 4 different states, across the states. So it was just me and Robert flying back and forth, and we're hoping that we don't catch COVID, because we were a small production, and we knew that if one of us catches it, that's the end of that production.
Great, thank you. So,
Everyone would like to say.
yeah,
Sure, yeah. So we had a 5-year initiative going at the museum to integrate religion into our exhibitions and programs and educational materials. And so I have to thank the Lilly Endowment for a grant that supported that. And I was working on an exhibition about the Hindu god Krishna lifting Mount Govardhan. It's a sculpture from Cambodia that was going to be shown in our galleries. And we needed to add a layer of religion to that story. But I didn't want it to be religion in the past. I wanted it to be religion now, and specifically religion in America. So my question to Praj was, what is the role of religion in Cambodian American communities? And, we had a few conversations, and it just became really clear that he was the person who could definitely direct this film. He could definitely make it, and he was going to make it much more expansive than I could have ever envisioned. So it was really successful showing it in the gallery, in the exhibition. A 30-minute documentary is part of an exhibition in a museum. That's not usually done. And then I'm just thrilled that the film is having this longer lifespan in film festivals. It's really special to be able to show it here in Long Beach. And then it will be on our website continuously, so anybody can watch it from anywhere in the world.
I'd like to hear from some of the participants from Satook. Oh, actually, I have a question, because I don't speak Khmer. What does Satook mean?
Me can answer that.
Okay.
Way to put me on the spot. To be honest with you, I don't know the literal meaning of Satook, but what I do know is that it is our, I want to say, physical action of blessings and prayers, is how I would describe it. And why we say it 3 times, my best assumption is that, it has to do with something with the Trinity, but I'm not really sure. So that's my guess. Sorry, everyone.
Thank you.
Every time you say Satook, you owe me a nickel. Got it copyrighted.
All right. Well, thank you. And I think that is a lot more accurate, more apt than saying religion, right? It's your own personal approach to it. So I think that's really well named. So I'd like to hear a little bit from each of the participants of Satook about just kind of like how it felt sharing such a personal thing, and also if you want to, share about how those types of beliefs, right? You can either, when terrible things happen, when tragedies happen, you either turn away from it or you clutch more tightly to it, and kind of what your experience was about that. But again, you don't have to.
During the filming, what I experienced every time, I listening to the interviews, and every time I watch it, I cry. So I think I like how, he chose to interview different people with different backgrounds. So that was really, I think that was really interesting.
My role at the temple, as you see in the film, that's what I do. I helped when elderly person comes in and he helps to arrange food for the Buddhist month. I'm usually one of the big volunteers at the temple on 3rd Street, so that's what I do. I guide old folks and any newcomers that need help. That's what I do. That's part of something that I'm blessed and I get a chance to volunteer and help.
Yes,
I don't choose anything, but my brother come up one day, and then, I was looking, he called me up and said, hey, I need to interview, and personally, between the believe or not, or, it's not like right or wrong, whatever it is, like just believe or not, and they say, what about it? They say, about the Buddha or the Christian or whatever, so they just say, okay, and I do it, so that's why.
Okay. You didn't have a choice. You didn't have a choice. Well, Patch does something, I do it too, so I'm here right now, so, okay.
I was lucky to be asked to be a part of this project. I would have said yes a million times over just for Pratch, but to do a project with the Smithsonian and about something so complicated as religion was super interesting to work on. So I think that, it affected me a lot because religion has been a constant through my life that I've struggled with. So to hear other people's stories, it was super enlightening to get to work on.
Same thing, I was just really blessed to be brought into this world. Speaking from the visual representation, I knew that going into the film, I have to help represent Cambodian religion, which is so complex. And also I was going basically into the intimate world of Pratch's friends and family. I mean, everybody in there is his dearest friends and his family members. So I knew that it was going to be very emotional. I knew that it needed to be intimate. The look had to be intimate. It had to be close up. And it was just, I feel so blessed about this experience every day, and I'm thankful for it. The other thing about this filming process, like Pratch said, we were in time of COVID, and normally when you're working on a film like this, we were running 2 cameras, a drone, sound, just me and Pratch. There was a few things we didn't know how to do. We just had to figure out how to do it because it was COVID and we couldn't take anybody with us. And thanks to the magic of Frank, it came out where we're really happy with it. Yeah.
And we went over budget, so I paid him with fish. True story. I was like, I can't pay you. I got to give you some fish.
What kind of fish? Yeah. Okay. So just in the interest of time, we need to keep moving. So I have a question about Lotto. So let's hear about how you came attached to this film and why you're telling the story right now.
Well, when I lived in Cambodia, I read an article by Mun Jin Narit, the journalist that you saw on screen, and I couldn't believe the story. And the more I researched it, I realized there wasn't a lot about it. It's just the article in the Post. So I decided to go visit him, and we went there one week on a Saturday, and we talked to him, and he was very excited that somebody, and I was shocked that nobody had done his story. And so he was happy, and he mentioned all the trials and tribulations and the different portions of his life. And I was going to do a nat sound piece, and we were going to go and travel throughout these different places and the people he knew and the impact it had on his life. The following week, we went back to start shooting, and he had had a stroke. So it's one of these rare occasions when you have someone that's alive, but you're trying to tell their story. And then I realized that his daughters, none of his family knew any of the people aside from the past, from his village, from the time he was in the jungle, any of the actors' names. So it became a real challenge. But I'd already committed to doing it. So I had written a letter to King Norodom Sihanouk asking for an interview. But he was already quite ill. It was before he died in 2004. It was like 3 years before, but he was already incapacitated. And I think he said he couldn't do the interview, but something he wrote was that he was really happy to have something sort of documented, and that he was very supportive to tell Lotto's story, because he really championed. And toward the end of his life, he wasn't surviving enough on the recycled stuff So I found out that the king had been sending him a small stipend throughout his life to keep him going. So I was just really touched by the challenge and the statement on celebrity and how that's so different around the world.
Absolutely. That's incredible that you were able to preserve this important story, a part of the Cambodian history that even his own children weren't able to provide, because that could have been completely lost if he hadn't just stumbled on that article. So that's incredible.
And then we put a lot of ads in papers all around different towns.
Oh, that's how you found them?
That's how we found it. So I would,
Wow. Wow, yeah. That could have just done that on the eye. And it seemed like you did a lot of work with finding all this footage, this lost footage. So much has been destroyed, right? So,
believe it or not, we spent a week in Phnom Penh back in early 2000, maybe late 90s, looking for stuff. And there were the VCD shops everywhere, but we could only find 3 VCDs. They were in terrible condition. And like you heard, over 100 films that he had made had been destroyed. So the other thing is, we had to, the reason it took so long, to answer your question, is because I never really, what I envisioned in the beginning, and telling his story, and I'm so connected to it, that I didn't feel like I could do it justice. So I kept waiting for something, and then I got busy with life. And then I was just carrying out some stuff, and I realized this thing's been bugging me forever because I couldn't find an audience that I thought. And then I thought, well, a lot of my friends, their kids didn't know who Lotto was, which was shocking to me. So I put it out there in this film, hoping, I was so happy to find a place for it. So I'm happy, really honored.
oh yeah, well we're honored to have you be a part of the Cambodian Town Film Festival, truly. I would love to hear kind of, the common theme a lot of this is kind of how do we cope with the things that happen in this world, the tragedies that happen to our families, to ourselves, and everything like that. We have our language that ties us together. We have our religion, our faith, our beliefs, and we also have laughter, right? That's so important. That's what gets us through. And I'd love to hear if you've learned of anything about the power of laughter and entertainment as you research Lotto's story.
Well, I think what struck me the most was the fact that he was always an outcast when he was young. He struggled to become famous, and then afterwards, he was basically in a lot of his movies. He was being pushed around, and he was sort of the stunt comic. But I found that after the Khmer Rouge, what you heard, the impact that his laughter had on others, despite his own personal tragedy, that made me look at it in a different way, because it was, at that time, post-Khmer Rouge, people were in trauma, and so the idea of laughter just being something for light entertainment that you kill some time with on Netflix versus life-altering and in many ways uplifting. And the whole point of the celebrity is the way we know it. I think that the laughter sort of saved his life, but in the end, very few people even knew that he was still alive.
Until now.
Yeah, well, I mean,
But yeah, beautiful. Thank you. All right, I'd love to hear from the audience. If you have a question, please raise your hand, and we'll get you a mic to you, or we can just talk really loud. So, anyone, questions? Questions? I have a question up here. Go ahead.
thank you for the question. I think I did, and the film helped me, to make peace. Especially, what I'm telling, the situation when she got sick. It was COVID time. It was super complicated. There were a lot of family dramas, like so many, things happening. And then working on that film, it helped me to take some distance and just to remember what is the most important thing. Because I'm so drowned, over the drama, so you cannot see clearly, just like, with the anger and frustration. And verbalizing that, articulating it in the film, like, helped me to kind of look at things differently. And you mentioned about, the voicemail, and that was very important for me to finish with the film, because it's like a long letter to my mom, but I want her somehow to, speak back to me, or at least hear her, because when she already passed, so I couldn't interview her or whatever. But it was a way for me to say, okay, this is what I think, but maybe I'm missing something here. And when when she passed, the first thing I did, I think, maybe some of you do the same. When somebody passed, you go look at old albums and try to look at photos, or when you were young, and this and that. So we did that. But then, to me, the messages were something else. It was even more profound than the photos, because I took them for granted. When I listened to the messages, it was just my mom calling for lunch. Like, oh, it's boring. I don't want to see her. Like, oh, I'll just hang up the phone, right? But then now that I listen to this message, like, oh, actually, that was her way, for her, her own words to communicate something very important that at that time I couldn't hear. So yeah, this whole thing helped me to make peace, actually.
I just wanted to say that the first two films raised my vibration. It was like almost a type of meditation. So perfectly personal yet universal. And I just wanted to thank you guys for putting me in this movement.
I think we have another question. Have a second question, or?
Yeah, regarding the Smithsonian, I understand that 70% of the budget comes from the federal government, and it's about an annual budget of $1 billion. So it's so wonderful that finally, our tax dollars are helping us learn at what our American community consists of. How can I participate in spreading education about my people, my culture in America?
Thank you for that. I work for one unit within the Smithsonian, which is a huge institution. If you have ideas for collaboration, we're always happy to talk. I'd be happy to talk with you. But I think it's really important, and this is one of the things that makes me most proud to work at the Smithsonian, is we're a .edu, like an educational, universities for email addresses end in .edu. So we're not .com or .org. And we really are an educational institution, and it's at the core of our mission as a whole, as an institution. It's the creation and dissemination of knowledge. So I'm very happy to spread that, to this project and be as, just as open and, yeah, I'll just leave it at that. But thanks.
Tell your agent to call her agent.
Perfect, yeah. So first of all, I think Lotto is great. Thank you so much for doing that. I think that there was a lot of, artists that lost a lot of things, a lot of culture was lost. So I really feel that Lotto is able to kind of I hope it's like the Renaissance, and then after you, we just started to, after the film and your work, that other artists and other people capture the interest of Cambodians and non-Cambodians, so that their stories can be told with the evidence that we can find, right? And kind of circling back to revealing Krishna, I'm an art historian. So my question is, I understand that it's a 3D installation and that Satook is also part of it, but how is the statue being preserved and sculpture in Cambodia? Or are there any measures to kind of preserve the art? I know a lot of it was looted, and there's just so much, Cambodia's
history, especially to the Khmer Rouge, had a lot of its art damaged and stolen. And so how is the sculpture being preserved? How is this grand? How is that helping, this significant work of art that parallels Satook being preserved in Cambodia?
So, huge question, but small answer first. That particular sculpture that the exhibition was built around belongs to the Cleveland Museum of Art. The pieces of that sculpture were in Cambodia in the National Museum in Phnom Penh, and they were attached to another sculpture. And there were pieces of the Cleveland sculpture there were pieces of the sculpture in Cambodia attached to the Cleveland sculpture. So it was a multi-year partnership, really exemplary of international collaboration among art historians, curators, conservators, and scientists. And they worked together in Cambodia and in the USA to match up the correct fragments of this huge stone sculpture with the correct sculpture. So both have now been preserved. One lives in Cleveland, one lives in Cambodia, but they have their integrity back. The one with the hand has the hand, the one with the feet has the feet. So that was part of the story at the center of this exhibition, was the object history of this particular sculpture, and it had a fascinating story. Satook was a way to take the historical significance of that sculpture, which was a Hindu god in Cambodia on a sacred mountain in southern Cambodia, not even in Angkor, which most people will know about throughout the world, and tell a new layer to the story, right? The situation with cultural heritage from Cambodia right now is immensely complex. There are sculptures flooding back to Cambodia from throughout the world. They've been in museum collections for decades. They were illicitly taken and they are going back. What happens when they get there, where they are preserved, how they are properly inventoried and cared for, this should be the concern, I believe, of the world, right? Not just of the Cambodian Ministry of Culture to have to deal with. So they've been really great in actively reaching out to museums across the world, including the Smithsonian, for guidance on how to preserve and display their collections. So it's going to be a decades-long project, but I think there are steps being taken now that will hopefully lay good groundwork so that Cambodia's cultural heritage can be cared for and continue to have its stories told.
All right, thank you so much for that. All right, I have time for just one question, and I'm going to ask it. So, Jean-Baptiste, so you mentioned that this was part of a podcast. Is there a way that we could all find the podcast, or?
Actually, no. It's the soundtrack is available in French. So yeah, I could give you the link, but then. Okay, I can. Oui, ben bien sûr. Vous envoyez l'adresse et puis vous pouvez l'écouter. But yeah, I can definitely send you the link.
Okay.
But can I just say something?
Yes, of course.
Maybe because I'm right now on a tour presenting the film, so I'll be traveling in other cities in Northern California, in the East Coast, New York, DC, Boston, and Lowell. So you can find all the information like on my social media in case you have friends or family who live in those cities and you want to send them to see the film. So yeah, it's easy to find me. It's just my name. But I'm also promoting a book, so I'm just going to say just something because it's available outside. So in case you guys are interested, because I'm also on a book tour. So my book is called Coming Out of My Skin. It was actually written in French, and the English translation has just been released. And so it's a memoir that talks about my journey growing up in France as an Asian gay male and how my ethnicity played a role in my romantic relationships. So if you guys are interested, it's available outside.
Wonderful. Please, everybody check that out, and let's get a round of applause for
I'm not trying to get the last word here, but on the behalf of the Cambodia Town Film Festival, I want to present the best documentary short to Lotto.